Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Meet the Team tonight. Thank you for your patience. We were just doing a quick trial and had some technology issues, as we do with virtual events. So thank you for your patience as we figured out those kinks. So my name is Jessica. I'll be your host for today, and we have two fantastic guest speakers. So Drew, if you could go to the next slide for me, please, just to go through our agenda. So for our Meet the Team, we get to see all of our faces really quickly, but don't worry, you get to meet many of us. So the purpose of these sessions is for you to be able to learn a lot about a specific topic that we cover each month, as well as getting to know us at Helping Hands. So that means any questions you might have under the sun in terms of what we do as doulas, what we do for our families, getting to know the human side of us, and really anything under the sun. So how that works, we're going to be having Maiya talking about prenatal and postpartum nutrition. She's a registered dietitian from Nourishing Balance. And she's going to be giving a lot of great tips and really give you some feedback of how you can get better nourishment throughout this transition. We'll have Sarah from our postpartum doula team talking about meal preparation and how to make that a little bit easier. As well, we'll be going through question and answer period for anything that comes up for you that you'd like to ask as a group. We do record the very beginning of these sessions for anyone that's popping in late or anyone that's not able to see these sessions in full. But we also have a section that's unrecorded, that's completely one-on-one with you in a private breakout room. And this is definitely probably our favorite part, because you're able to get to ask your one-to-one questions of really anything that is important to you that you're learning today. So let's get started. So our first person is Maiya, again, registered dietitian from Nourishing Balance. So we're gonna let her take it over from here for our first segment of today's workshop.
Perfect, and I will just share my slide. Awesome, everyone can see them here? Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. My name's Maiya and thanks for the introduction. So what we'll be talking about today is new beginnings. We'll talk a little bit about pregnancy and postnatal nutrition. So a little bit of a brief introduction about me. I am a registered dietitian and the owner of Nourishing Balance Integrative Health Team. And I specialize in working with women and kids anywhere from fertility, pregnancy, postpartum, and then also I work with babies and toddlers when we get into infant feeding and toddler nutrition and all that fun stuff like picky eating. Our website is nourishingbalance.ca, so you can find us there, as well as I'm on Instagram as well if you want to check me out. So a little bit about our team. So we are an integrative health team. So we have therapists on our team, as well as nurse practitioners, which is quite a unique service that we offer. So all of our services are virtual, so you have access to us from the comfort of your home. And in terms of how we support you, we really take a holistic approach to supporting our clients and really want to make sure that any of the recommendations that we do make are sustainable long-term. We really do believe in, trying to avoid quick fixes or diets, and really help our clients create lifestyle changes so that, again, they're sustainable long-term. Through our NPs, our nurse practitioners, we offer services such as hormone testing, wellness checkups. So if you don't have a family doctor, or if you feel that you haven't felt heard from them or supported the way that you want, we offer these private services to kind of give you that more holistic and individualized approach to your care. So what we'll be talking a little bit about is just some pregnancy tips to start off with, some baby building nutrients during pregnancy. Then we're going to kind of jump forward into postpartum, and then we'll talk a little bit about what's next and how we can support you as a team. So jumping right into some pregnancy tips. So I like kind of talking about some couple key things. So first and foremost, one of the biggest things that I recommend, because I see a lot of clients that are coming to me that may have nausea or discomfort depending on where they're at in their pregnancy as well. As you get bigger, you have less space, and sometimes, again, that discomfort can occur. So I really recommend eating small, frequent meals. And sometimes in the beginning, that may just be a piece of bread or something simple, but eating small, frequent meals can really help. Making sure that you're getting the nutrition that you need, as well as being able to keep food down if you aren't feeling so well. Secondly, when we're talking about choosing foods, we know that gestational diabetes is something that we get assessed for during pregnancy. So I do recommend trying to choose low or medium glycemic index foods. So when we're talking about what that glycemic index means, we're talking about how carbohydrates that we're consuming can impact our blood sugar. So the lower the glycemic index, the less they have an impact on our blood sugar. The higher the glycemic index, the more likely they are to spike your blood sugar. So we're talking about lower glycemic index foods. We're thinking about things like sweet potatoes, lots of fruits such as pears, apples, carrots are great. Corn's also low glycemic index. We're talking about medium glycemic index foods. That's things like oats. The higher fiber oats are the steel cut oats. Things like dates, cantaloupe. Those are some examples there of some low to medium glycemic index foods. And then third, if you are experiencing like heartburn or like discomfort again after meals, try to avoid drinking water or liquids during mealtime. When we're kind of digesting liquids and solids at one time, it can sometimes impact our gut and digestion. And so trying to separate those, I'd say usually 30 minutes before and after meals is what I would recommend. And then fourth, I recommend eating lots of fiber. We know constipation can be common during pregnancy. So lots of fiber and hydration is really important. We'll talk a little bit about fluids and how much fluids I usually recommend, but lots of fiber. So again, we're thinking about things that are whole grains, fruits and veggies are going to give you lots of fiber there. And then I always like talking a little bit about mindful eating, especially because as we are growing, there's often this recommendation that circles around like we can only gain X amount of pounds depending on what our pre-pregnancy weight is. And, for those of you who maybe have been pregnant in the past, and are looking to get pregnant again, or maybe have multiple children, I'm sure you can relate in the sense that you've probably gained different amounts of weight during each pregnancy. And so that is common. All the clients I work with, even if they're working with me and optimizing their nutrition, may gain different amounts of weight. So it's a really individualized approach. And again, being mindful with our eating. So, some questions that I often get is like how many calories I should be eating. I like thinking of it as like focusing on fuel, right? When you're hungry, eat, and honoring that hunger is really important. So not ignoring that. And if you feel hungry after a meal, that's a sign that you should continue to be eating till you feel satisfied at that meal. And that's where, again, those smaller, more frequent meals can be helpful if you're finding that you're feeling hungry quite often and may feel discomfort by eating larger meals as well. And again, there's no rules. Do what works for you. And again, that's why working with our team at Nourishing Balance, we can create that individualized approach for you as well, if that's something that you're looking for. So as I mentioned, fluids are a really important piece of the puzzle, whether it's during pregnancy or postpartum, if you are, in general, but especially if you're breastfeeding, you want to make sure you're keeping those fluids high as well. So usually I recommend anywhere from 34 milliliters to 40 milliliters per kilogram of body weight. So remember, that's not pounds. You want to divide your weight by 2.2 if you're thinking about pounds. And again, fluids really important for maintaining good circulation, regulating body temperature. It's going to support digestion. It's going to help with absorption of nutrients. And it's going to prevent things like constipation, hemorrhoids, headaches, and dehydration as a whole. And also help breast milk supply as well if you are breastfeeding or pumping. And then let's talk a little bit about some baby building nutrients. So there's a lot of different ones here, or a lot of different ones that are relevant, but I've just kind of highlighted 6 of the key ones that I like focusing on. So folic acid or folate is one of the, key ones that we think of when we think of pregnancy. So our grains here in Canada are fortified with folate. So you can count on things like our whole grains, our pastas, to give us that folate. Omega-3s are a really key one. So things like salmon, chia seeds, walnuts are really great. And again, I usually do recommend, if you are following more of a vegetarian or vegan diet, that supplementation may be recommended. Just to, again, what we do know, especially when it comes to omega-3s, is it really supports baby brain development. And it's also really great for our own skin, joints, and brain development as well. Calcium is another really important one when we're talking about bone health and nerve health too. So things like yogurt, milk, dark leafy green vegetables are going to be really great sources there. And then iron is another really, really important nutrient, something that I do really recommend on optimizing. I mean, we want to optimize all nutrients prior to pregnancy, but one of the key ones I would say is iron, because our iron is going to be super used during pregnancy. So really optimizing that and getting in that optimal window prior to pregnancy is really key. So again, a lot of our meat and poultry are going to have iron, but if we're following more of a vegetarian or vegan diet, our dark leafy green vegetables, sweet potato, broccoli, tofu, tempeh, those are all going to be great iron-rich foods as well. And then choline is one of the nutrients that I find isn't talked about enough when it comes to pregnancy, but there's more and more research coming out in this space. And I find a lot of prenatal vitamins actually still don't have choline in them. So that's something that I always recommend looking out for. Actually, one of the ones that I used to recommend actually removed it for some reason from there. So even just doing an overhaul to make sure that you are, double checking if your prenatal does have it. And in addition to that, consuming choline-rich foods. So 2 eggs will have a daily dosage of choline during pregnancy. But again, that's where, if you're not eating that every single day, make sure that your prenatal has that, or if you're supplementing additionally as well. And then B12, just to kind of wrap up with the nutrients. So B12, again, something that I really recommend optimizing prior to pregnancy. So we're going to get that in things like our fish, beef, shellfish. Nutritional yeast is a vegan source that you can also get B12 from as well. And I know I'm quickly going through things, but I think there's a lot of content that we're going to go through today. So just quickly going through everything. So now we're going to jump right into the 4th trimester or postpartum. And talk a little bit about some key tips that I have for then. So kind of in between that, you're going to get your amazing doula care, and then we're going to be there to kind of support you again postpartum with nutrition. So talking about 4th trimester, a couple of my key tips and recommendations is, again, as mom, prioritizing yourself and making sure you're getting enough calories. The first couple of weeks are going to be really busy and there's going to be sleep deprivation, but really making sure you're eating enough for helping with recovery, as well as if you are, breastfeeding to support the milk supply. Next, talking about consuming healthy fats. So we're looking at things like nuts and seeds, salmon, chia seeds, flax seeds. Those are going to be really important, as well as things like avocado. And when you're using cooking oils, thinking about olive oils and avocado oil to really support, again, that healing and milk production. Again, just to reiterate those omega-3s, what we do know is omega-3 content in breast milk is directly correlated to mom's intake of omegas. So again, really a key nutrient that we want to focus on consuming either through food or supplementation if we find that we're not consuming, salmon or rainbow trout on a regular basis, as well as those other nutrients that I mentioned there. And then having iron-rich foods, we know that there's going to be a lot of blood loss that happens as well during delivery. And so replenishing with iron-rich foods, such as meats, leafy greens, nuts and seeds, and legumes are really a great source there as well. And then definitely getting your 6 to 8 week postpartum blood work is something I recommend. Again, we want to assess if mom is healing well, if the iron levels, B12 levels, vitamin D levels are in a normal range. And then again, if you are breastfeeding, just to have a better idea of if you are having those good nutrient stores, because what we do know is that our body's really smart and it's going to prioritize the nutrition in your breast milk over your own self. So that is something to consider as well. And then continuing to take your prenatal vitamin, definitely for a little bit after delivery, even if you aren't breastfeeding, but if you are continuing to take it on an ongoing basis till you do stop. Consuming lots of fluids is really important, especially if you have edema or swelling. Staying hydrated is going to really help. And then monitoring things like salt as well, if there is any edema or fluid. We do know that salt's going to retain water in our body, so watching the salt content is something to keep in mind. And then again, having those smaller frequent meals. So if you find it's hard to kind of sit down and have that time to have a meal, having some balanced snacks can be really helpful. Have things on hand like granola bars, or maybe make a batch of protein balls that you can keep in the freezer even before delivering. I know we're going to talk a little bit about some meal planning too, so I'm sure there'll be some great tips as well. But pairing a protein with a fiber is what I always recommend. So that could look like having some hummus with some veggies, or some crackers with some cheese, or a Greek yogurt with some berries, to give you guys some examples there. And I find that's going to help with, again, creating those satisfying snacks, but also help with blood sugar regulation as well. So I hope you were able to take that all in. I feel like I spoke really fast. But what I also wanted to let you know is that our team at Nourishing Balance is actually hosting a free workshop as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about our team and our services, we're hosting a Ditching Diet Mentality workshop on September 21st. And if you are interested, you can register on our website, which is here just at nourishingbalance.ca. And you can learn more about our services. Our services are often covered through extended health benefits as well. So check to see if you have health spending accounts or dietitian coverage, or if you even have therapy support or nursing services. All of that would cover our services as well. And if you are looking to follow along, I am on Instagram at nourishingbalance.women.kids. So thanks for listening, and I'll hand it back over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Maiya. You did talk a lot, but you talked about a lot of knowledge. So thank you.
Okay, good.
Information and tidbits. I'm sure that everyone here on this call was busily writing down notes. So if any of you have got questions, this is the time to go into your chat, make it out to everyone so we can see what your question is, or someone at the team, because we will have that dedicated question and answer time to be able to ask Maiya questions that come to mind. I also encourage you, while you're in that chat, let us know what you're here for today. Like, what's the most important thing? And if you'd like to come to our breakout rooms, remember, we'll be doing that right at the end. So I see some questions coming in, which is great. We are going to move on to the next segment before question and answer, which is our postpartum doula, Sarah McIsaac. Drew, if you could just change that slide. Thank you so much. So a little bit about Sarah before we get started. She's always been passionate about the developmental needs of newborns as well. You can, when you meet her, you can just feel her love for helping people and being just of great assistance, which is what doulas do. And she comes from another previous life where she did a lot of cool stuff with food, and she's going to be sharing a little bit more about that journey into doula work by sharing some nourishing recipes and suggestions for today with how to make food easy in this period. So Sarah, I'm going to pass over the mic to you. Give us your wisdom on how to make it easy to eat with one hand.
Thanks, Jess. Okay, so hello everybody. Yeah, so if maybe Drew, if you can just, yeah, there we go. Perfect. So, I mean, you don't have to be a chef by any means to do any of these. Like, well, I'll try to kind of keep it simple. And I mean, Google can be your best friend, right? Like there's so many different recipes and, and, or if you ever had a question specifically about what I've talked about today, you can always reach out through Helping Hands as well. So some of the tips that I like to share is definitely to start prepping while you are still pregnant. Freezer meals are great. There's so many different options that you can do and have done and then freeze. You always want to make sure that you're dating just to make sure, I mean, in the freezer, it's pretty much always going to be okay to eat. It's just obviously going to lose some of its flavor. And, if it starts getting freezer burnt, you probably don't really want to eat that. But yeah, so dating everything is always really great. And then like what Maiya was saying, like making sure that everything's kind of balanced. So you can have like, even with the picture on the screen there, I love those little takeaway kind of tin containers that you can get even at the dollar store. You can kind of have like one little meal in each, put everything, all your little food groups in there, date it. I mean, write down what's on it or what's in it rather, date it, and then throw it in the freezer. Again, if you don't have a freezer, of course you want to get one of those. Yeah, so the meal shower or like the meal train, I don't know if everyone's heard of, but that's another really great thing that you can do with, friends and family. Like everyone's always like, oh, what can I do to help? What can I, whatever. And you can just say, start, some kind of messaging thing with everybody or an email train or just whatever kind of works for you. And then everybody can sign up and say, okay, like I'm going to bring a meal on this Monday, and you can bring one Tuesday or Wednesday. Like if someone can make you one meal that lasts 1 or 2 days, great. Even better. And then everybody can kind of take their turns bringing you something that's not, a lasagna for 7 days a week. Oh, perfect. Mealtrain.com. There you go. There is a thing. Of course there is. Yeah. So prepare the bigger meals. So I love doing this, even like when you're not pregnant or have a baby, this is good as well. But it's always super useful to do because, so for example, it says they're the whole chicken. So roasting a whole chicken, or I mean, even if you go to the grocery store and get one of the cooked chickens, that's fine too. You can do so many different things with it throughout the week. So, I mean, it lasts in the fridge like 3 to 4 days, I would say is the best kind of timeline to get it eaten. But you can do so many things. So the first day, so you have just chicken with, some veggies and some kind of starch for a meal. And the next day you can make soup out of it, or, like a quick little quesadilla, sandwiches, all those sorts of things. Or just, throw it in a salad. Super easy. Same with the quinoa or rice, whatever you kind of like. Make a big pot of it. And then again, there's so many different recipes online. You can say, quinoa recipes, and it'll give you a whole list of things that you can make with it. So you're just not eating the same thing every day, because I know that kind of gets boring. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so these are helpful little tips when you're meal planning. So it's definitely ideal to have a grocery list ready. It definitely keeps you more organized. And then I think you're not so overwhelmed when you're going into the grocery store and you're like, you have all these things in your mind, like, okay, I want to make this. And then you're like, kind of just way too much going on in your head. If you have everything written out, same with like kind of beside it, feeding off of that, make a list of what you would want to make. And then of course, like things that can be frozen, or, the rest of the family likes to eat, whatever. And then kind of make a grocery list according to that. And then of course you want to go through your fridge and all that and just make sure you're not doubling. So you have all these ingredients that are going to go bad. I don't know if there's anything on the slide about the frozen like veggies and that sort of thing, but I love that as a as an option instead of getting fresh vegetables. Frozen vegetables are fantastic and, obviously last a lot longer, and, a lot of them are really great quality, and they're still super nutritious because they are kind of picked and flash frozen and everything like that. So it still holds the nutrients. Okay, so getting everyone involved. If you have other children or a partner that likes to cook, or anyone in your family that's like, again, wants to help you out, great kind of thing to do as an activity. If you want, if you're more like, I just want to get this done by myself, that's cool too. But yeah, you can always kind of talk to your family or your partner, whoever's there with you, and bounce ideas off each other, like, okay, well, no, I wouldn't eat that, or this is a great idea for both of us, whatever. It's always nice just to have everybody included. Again, with the check what you have. So I mentioned that, just to make sure. And then it is good, of course, even if you're missing stuff, to kind of stock up on things that are, non-perishable, so that you have those throughout, your pregnancy and then onwards. So you're not kind of like scrambling for stuff at the grocery store. The weekly menu, kind of also touched on that a little bit. When you're planning, it's really helpful, I find, too. I know, and it sounds like it's a lot, but even if you just do like, okay, Sunday, we're going to sit down for, however long it takes. Well, I don't think it would take a super long time, but, sit down, give yourself some time, figure out, okay, this meal, write the days of the weeks on the calendar, whatever's easy for you. I find with myself, like, if I have a list and it's in front of me and I'm like, okay, Monday I'm making this, then it's like kind of one less thing to be thinking about. And then of course it doesn't have to be written in stone if you want to switch up the days. Checking what's on sale, definitely, especially nowadays with the price of everything. There's so many apps. So I personally use Flip. I think that's fantastic because you can go through and, check out what's on sale. You can search for certain things and it'll come up with whatever stores have sales on that specific thing. And so the balanced meal, again, so like Maiya was saying, and like I mentioned when you were doing kind of the pre-meal prep, all that kind of stuff, is to just make sure that you have everything balanced. And then the balanced snacks. So again, Maiya kind of touched on that as well. And then the time savings tips. So, like I said, making a whole chicken and using it throughout the week. Oh yeah, slow cookers, rice cookers, all that kind of thing. All those kinds of things are great. Again, not necessary, but a slow cooker is always nice because you can, once you have your plan, okay, this is everything, throw it in there. By the time it's dinner, it's ready. And then you can kind of just throw the whole pot in the fridge and then eat it the next day as well. Again, frozen is great because it's always, again, just there, defrost it, cook it, whatever, and you're done. Okay, sorry, I did want to actually mention a couple things. I wasn't sure if there was another slide there. Just so, primarily I would say this is probably best when you have the baby and, you're feeding or holding, whatever. Handheld snacks are great. Well, one hand snacks, I guess, is better. So there's so many, again, different options. I can name a couple. So having things like the energy balls, like I think Maiya mentioned, there's so many, again, different recipes that you can make that incorporate all different nutrients in it, and they freeze really well. Throw them in the freezer and you can kind of just pop one out when you like. A trail mix, a handful of nuts, popcorn, like air popped popcorn. You can make your own kale chips, because if you're like me and you love your salty snacks, that's a little healthier. So breakfast, breakfast is really good to have. Like, I even do a lot of mini quiches. So I just even buy sometimes, like, because if you want to make your own little crust, great. But to save time, you can buy the pre-made ones that are frozen, that are also, you know, super delish. I always make a couple different kinds, bake them, and then just throw them in the freezer. Again, you know, labeling everything. You can make breakfast cookies or lactation cookies if that's something that's important to you, like breastfeeding. Again, of course, there's like the you know, fruits and veggies that are one-handed, like the bananas, apples, all that sort of thing. Even just like toast or an English muffin, you know, maybe a little bit of nut butter, something like that is always good just to have something. Boiled eggs, you can kind of just make a batch of boiled eggs. They'll last in the fridge again for a couple of days. You can just kind of throw one of those in your hand and munch away. Also for breakfast, I really love to do chia seed pudding. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that, but it's really great because I do, again, you can find a recipe online, but I just make a whole bunch of little ones in little like mini mason jars, throw them in the fridge, you know, the next day they're done. And then they last again in the fridge for a few nights. And then I just grab it, throw some fruit on top. You know, if you want to mix it with yogurt or a little bit of drizzle of honey or maple syrup to add sweetness or whatever you want, that's kind of quick and easy as well. A lot of times also I add hemp hearts to a lot of things just to get that added kind of omega and protein. Even like sometimes I'll add it even on my, what was I eating the other day? Salad. You just throw a kind of a handful in salad. I put it in my grilled cheese because, you know, just why not an extra little bit of nutrients in my grilled cheese. Grilled cheese also is a good option. You know, you can cut it up into little mini pieces. So you're kind of just going bite size when you can with one hand. Let's see, what else did I have here? Oh, the smoothie bag. So this is a really good tip I actually learned from another dietitian that I used to work with, kind of in my cooking days. When you can do a whole bunch of, I know, again, this is something that is on the market, but you definitely don't have to spend the money to get some kind of subscription. Make like little freezer bags or whatever you have that fits in your freezer with kind of like one portion of a smoothie. So have one little baggie, you know, throw some berries, a banana, some spinach, whatever you want to have. You can, you know, have different ones for each day, throw them in the freezer, you know, in the morning, dump that in the blender, add a little bit of whatever liquid you're using, and then you're ready to go. I just want to see, because I saw some things pop up in the chat. Yeah, popsicles are awesome. Like the Greek yogurt ones are super yummy. And then, I mean, again, if you feel like being ambitious and making your own, that's great too. Overnight oats, yes. Trail mix on your nightstand definitely is great because, you know, when you're breastfeeding or even just bottle feeding at night and you're laying in bed and you just want to, you know, have a little snack beside you, that's perfect. And then you can buy pre-made trail mix, you can make your own, you can buy stuff and then throw your own kind of stuff in it, whatever works for you. I always like to do sometimes, like if I'll do like my own air popped popcorn, you know, you can add some nuts and seeds and even maybe some mini chocolate M&Ms for a little bit of extra sweetness. Yeah, because I mean, again, you don't want to deprive yourself. It's if you have that extra little craving, you know, it's okay to have a little bit and just yeah, help those cravings. I think that was pretty much it. Let me just double check my other one here. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I feel like that was a lot as well. Yeah.
That's so great.
If there's any questions, yeah, I'd love to answer.
Amazing. So we have actually quite a few questions in the chat. And then also for everyone on here, check out that chat because the number of suggestions for easy snacks and recipes, including Maiya has some blog posts that it looks like she's given us for free of recipes. Go check it out. But I think the first question that we have here that I'm seeing, I think this, Maiya, is for you. Is there any risk in consuming too much of certain nutrients or vitamins? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a really good question. So I would say definitely there is risk. So when we're looking at fat soluble vitamins, they're going to be stored in our body if we're having too much. So there is such thing as toxicity of vitamins and minerals. And so that's why I always say get blood work to really see where you are at. And going off of that is the best indicator to individualize any supplementation. Usually if you're getting it from food, unless you're having like excess amounts of certain things on a daily basis, you're likely not going to get that toxicity. But definitely when we're looking at supplementation, especially things like prenatal vitamins or multivitamins, because, you know, they're having a bunch of different vitamins and minerals, I would say definitely making sure you're getting that blood work to kind of see where you're at and then taking it individualized from there.
Amazing. And the next question that I'm seeing for you as well, what are the foods to avoid if there's a thyroid issue detected during pregnancy? Is there anything they need to be careful of?
Yeah, so again, I do like to take a non-restrictive approach in general. But when we're talking about thyroid, I'm probably assuming maybe there's some signs of like hypothyroidism that's happening. I like to approach it more so from, you know, what can we include that can support our thyroid a little bit more? So again, really focusing on more of like a Mediterranean style diet. So including more fatty fish in your diet, more olive oils, focusing on more fiber, legumes, nuts, and seeds. And one of my favorite things when it comes to thyroid health is Brazil nuts. So 2 Brazil nuts a day gives you your daily dose of selenium. And that can really support your thyroid and functioning optimally.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. And I did see there was a private question that came in just directly to me too, just about choline and what is the benefits or why we want to include that. So just to expand upon that. So choline is a really key nutrient when it comes to brain development and spinal cord development as well. So again, we often think of folic acid, but now choline, there's a lot of research to show that choline consumption can really impact baby brain and spinal cord development.
Awesome. I see 2 other questions that are coming through. One is the recommendation of the iron fish. There was a time where I saw that all over the place to boost iron.
Yeah, I actually have mine right here, and I recommend it all the time to my clients. So for those of you that don't know what this is, so it is a like tool essentially that you can add into your food while you're cooking. You do need to have it in your food for at least 10 minutes and boiling it. And you also need to add a source of vitamin C or citrus to it. So lemon juice or oranges, depending on what you are cooking. So I love using it in things like soups or stews. You can throw it into like a pressure cooker or a slow cooker. And you need to add it in there, like I said, for 10 minutes. Once you have it in there, you just remove it, you rinse it. And what happens is that iron is released from this tool and it helps increase the bioavailability of the iron that's in your food. And it can be a really great option, especially because sometimes iron supplements can cause discomfort, nausea, constipation. So it's a really great tool that you can add to increase the iron in your diet.
Love that. So easy. Yeah. And then I think the last question we have, but of course, if you've got something, put it in the chats before we move on to the next segment, is what other sources of iron and calcium are good options for vegetarians?
Yeah, so lots of options for sure still available. So when we're talking about even calcium and iron, different soy-rich foods like tofu, edamame are great options. Dark leafy greens are great. So things like bok choy, broccoli are great, as well as cooked spinach is a really great source of iron. So I do recommend like sauteing something like spinach. Again, you're still going to get iron from raw spinach as well, but it's going to be enhanced when you cook it. And things like beans, peas, lentils, legumes, they're really great sources of iron and calcium as well.
Love that. Thank you so much. So oh no, we've got other questions.
Yeah.
One last one that's coming through. For breastfeeding, do you recommend lactation cookies, lactation drinks, fenugreek? to boost milk production or increasing water intake? It's still the
Yeah.
best way. So I think we can definitely take an answer from yourself, Maiya, and then also from a doula point of view.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I usually say, I mean, often from lactation products that are out there, I think there's definitely lots of key nutrients, but I think you can also consume those foods without consuming things like lactation drinks or cookies. Again, if they're convenient options or ways to get those things like flax, like chia, like healthy fats in your diet, go for it for sure. Now, when it comes to fenugreek, I am very mindful of it because sometimes actually it can decrease milk supply. So I always say, again, this is not within my scope. I'm not a lactation consultant, but I would recommend working with a lactation consultant or someone that does have a little bit more insight. But I would say, again, always consult with someone before you're considering taking any supplement, whether it's still like herbal or not.
Definitely. Now, does anyone on our Helping Hands team want to pipe in on thoughts about our lactation, like galactogons? Is that the go-to for helping with breastfeeding?
I just wanted to mention something really quick that I've kind of heard some feedback with the fenugreek as well. I've heard a lot of people say that it can make again, I don't know the science or anything. I'm just saying the feedback that I've heard from people that it can make the baby quite gassy. Again, don't know what truth is behind that, but again, that was just some feedback that I've heard from people. I've also heard like clients that have loved the lactation cookies and teas. I think it, depends on the person and their body, but I mean, that's just, like I said, the feedback that I've gotten from people.
Thanks, Sarah. And yeah, going back again, whenever you're taking supplements, definitely make sure that you're checking in with a care provider with that. Christy, you had something you wanted to mention.
Sure. Thank you. So if you're looking to boost your milk production, presuming that you think that you're not having enough milk, if there's any question about not producing enough milk, I think your first step should be to consult a lactation consultant or somebody with breastfeeding expertise before you reach for any of these galactagogues, anything that's supposed to increase your milk production. I think the best way to maintain a really good milk supply is to feed on demand and take care of your own personal nutrition.
Yes. So I think also too, when we see these options to help us with a certain need like breastfeeding, I think especially for first-time parents, it's like, oh, perfect, I'll need this to help with breastfeeding. But in reality, just like what Christy was saying as well, get support in place so that you learn how to get those deep latches. And that's really what's going to help you with supply and demand. These were all really great questions, everyone on the chat. Thank you so much.
Sorry, one more thing. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I just wanted to mention, with my clients, I always recommend doing skin to skin as well, because I find that can help with get the hormones going and all of that, to help again with the milk supply once you've cleared everything else with a professional.
Awesome. And Esther, you've got some feedback to share too.
So just the lactation cookies, in the beginning, I know that it's like something that's easy to make and easy to grab. But if you're somebody like me, for example, with both my kids, I actually had an oversupply and I wasn't really like thinking too much. I just kind of grabbed those lactation cookies in the beginning and I was just eating them just for a snack. It actually made it a lot worse for me and create so much of an oversupply that I ended up having some issues down the line. So I definitely recommend that if you're going for those lactation cookies, that you just make sure that you pace yourself, number one, and that if you really need to raise your supply, eat them, but try to avoid eating them if you already have a good established supply, because it may just make things a little bit overwhelming and you may produce so much milk that it won't be so beneficial. But yeah, definitely speak to a lactation consultant about that and see how it goes for you first.
Absolutely. Okay, wonderful. So if there's no other questions coming through, what we'll do is we'll stop the recording, and this is part of the session where we go into breakout rooms. So how that works, very easy. You'll just get a little pop-up that says join room 1, 2, whatever that may be. That's going to be your dedicated room, almost like your private boardroom. We'll have about 5 minutes, 6 minutes or so with team members. You'll get a little alert when you're about halfway through and as we're wrapping up, and you stay in your room. we come to you. So we do a little switch, and that way you can ask really any question that you have. As well, we'll be able to help you, guide you through some things and conversation starters to really get to know us.